It is the Commanders Report mailbag here the week after the Super Bowl, where unfortunately the Philadelphia Eagles were crowned Super Bowl champions. But now we head on to brighter pastures here in Commanders Nation. And I can't wait to see what kind of questions you got for me. Draft, free agency, all this different stuff is probably going to be coming our way here. I have no idea what questions are coming up. But if I know anything about Commanders fans, you guys are going to be bringing the heat here on this week's Q&A. Make sure you guys get down there and click that subscribe button if you haven't already. We have the most interactive Commanders fan community anywhere on YouTube. We put out daily community posts. We also do these interactive mailbags on our live shows every single Wednesday, where you guys have the opportunity to have your voice heard and your questions get answered right here on the show. So if you want to join the most interactive fan community for Commanders fans all across the globe, make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. I greatly appreciate your support. We'll start with my man Eugene here. It says top keepers: Wagner, Chin, Way, Fowler Jr., Ertz, and De'Ami Brown. I think the only thing that I would switch up here, Eugene, and I see why you went De'Ami Brown. He played pretty darn well towards the end of the season, especially in the playoffs. But I would personally go with Olamide Zaccheaus because I think he's going to be a little bit less expensive. I think that he brings a little bit more versatility in terms of what he can do special teams-wise. And I think, Zaccheaus can do a little bit more, all right? De'Ami is a little bit more of a true deep threat, in my opinion, where Zaccheaus can slide into the slot. I think he's very savvy in the red zone. And for the price tag, I think I'd rather have Zaccheaus than De'Ami Brown. But if they bring back De'Ami, I wouldn't necessarily hate that either. But if they bring back all these guys, I certainly wouldn't mind it at all. I'll probably also add Zane Gonzalez as somebody as I'd like to see brought back. I thought he was very consistent this year. And I kind of don't want to be scrambling for a new kicker once again here in 2025. Then we've gone from JP6 is who would you trade for if you had a choice? I'd be trading for Myles Garrett. And yes, I understand that you're going to have to give up a lot to get him. But I think that, this is a Commanders team where they're now on a time clock before you have to pay Jaden Daniels astronomical money against the cap. You have Jaden Daniels, a superstar-level quarterback, on a rookie contract. You got to take advantage of that. And Myles Garrett is the one defender that they could acquire this year that by himself is just, raises the whole defense like a whole letter grade. All right. And I think that because you have the quarterback in place, because you have a number one receiver, because you have the cornerback that you like in Marshon Lattimore, and then if you get Garrett, you have your number one edge rusher. I think he's worth 2 first-round draft picks. Plus, I would pay him a new contract to keep him here in Washington for the long term. And hopefully make him a Commander for the rest of his career and hopefully win some Super Bowls here at the Burgundy and Gold. So for me, the one player, if I could trade for just one player this offseason for the Washington Commanders, it'd be Myles Garrett. Then we on from Jaden Sports here. Jaden Sports says, do you think we should draft Shavon Revel as CB1 and make Lattimore CB2 as he locked up guys like Tim Patrick and Marquez Valdez-Scantling? So the thing about Lattimore is that obviously, he dealt with that hamstring issue last year, and it affected him. All right, he got toasted against A.J. Brown twice. Mike Evans had a very good game against him. But the Commanders, based on what they're saying, they feel like he just wasn't 100% healthy. He came in later in the season, which is kind of like a moving train situation. And they think next year, going into the season, he's going to be 100% healthy, and he's going to be the Marshon Lattimore that we're accustomed to seeing. So will that be the case? Only time will tell. But I think Shavon Revel has a chance to make it to the Commanders in round 1. So, the thing about drafting any player in round 1 is that you're probably expecting them to start. I think if they draft Shavon Revel, he's going to be CB2 to start. All right. Like it would be Marshon Lattimore, CB1, Revel as number 2. Now in the future, that might switch. But to start, at least, Revel would be getting the easier assignments, whereas Lattimore would be getting the more difficult ones. But Revel is a really good prospect where he's got long arms, he's fast, he's got oily hips, he's got great instincts in zone coverage. He's got a lot of the stuff you look for in a potential star corner in the National Football League. but he's coming off an injury. He played against lower level competition. Those are going to be question marks in his profile. So he could certainly make it to number 29, and honestly, I wouldn't mind the pick if that ends up being the pick for the Commanders this year. So let me know down there in the comments section, name a player you want the Commanders to draft in 2025. Do you want Shavon Revel Jr.? Do you want Emeka Egbuka? Do you want somebody else? What player do you want the Commanders to draft here in 2025? Just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at PrizePicks. And while I'm talking about PrizePicks, get down there in the comments section and let me know what player you want the Commanders to draft. And with that, let's have word from our sponsor here at PrizePicks, which is the best place to get real money sports action all off-season long. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more than or less than on at least 2 player stat projections for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. And the great thing about PrizePicks, guys, is that they put their members first. So all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. And if you sign up today, you guys can get $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. And right now, guys, you got basketball going on. You got hockey going on. NASCAR's right around the corner. And, of course, baseball is coming up here in a couple of months as well. And right now on PrizePicks, you can do full season projections on some of the league's best players. Guys like Paul Skeens, Shohei Ohtani, all these guys, they got full season more or less is on there in projections. So you can do strikeouts, you can do total home runs, you can do RBIs, you can do hits. They got so many different things on there. So if you guys want to get a PrizePicks projection in for the 2025 MLB season, you guys can download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup when you download the PrizePicks app today. PrizePicks, run your game. Got one from my man Eli Hokies fan who says, Washington, would you rather go for a wide receiver, cornerback, offensive line, or all of the above? All of them are positions that this team needs to address this offseason, right? What I will say, and we put out a video on this earlier this week, the trenches are king in the National Football League, all right? So you got to make sure you get the offensive line right, got to make sure you get the right players in there, got to make sure the defensive line is good as well so you can get a pass rush going with just 4 players and you don't have to blitz all the time like this team had to last year. But also, as we saw last year, if you can't cover anybody, pass rush doesn't really matter either. So you need to get a cornerback to add to the room alongside Marshon Lattimore and Mike Samerstrill. And then the receivers, there's just so many free agents, right? Right now, you're going into the season with just Terry McLaurin and Luke McCaffrey. So, do you bring back one of the depth receivers you had last year? Do you make a move for a trade like a Deebo Samuel or DK Metcalf or Cooper Kupp? How early of a draft pick are you going to spend on a wide receiver? All these things are going to have to be hashed out by the Washington Commanders in the weeks to come. But there's no doubt about it. These are 3 positions that this team has to address this offseason if they want to be Super Bowl champions next year. Then we got to Dan Bonat. I have no idea if I'm saying that right, but he says, Quinn and Peters have been building an identity of leadership and seriousness. With Lattimore's fighting issues undermine this message for new players, or is it not that serious? So it's a good question here, Dan. I don't think so. They certainly don't seem to be too concerned about it. At the end of the season press conference, they said how much they love his skill set, they love his fit in their defense, and you need to have a little bit of jerk in you. You have to be a little bit of an asshole to be a true number 1 corner in the National Football League, and Lattimore certainly has that dog in him. Now, does that lead to some fighting issues and some 15-yard penalties at times? 100%, all right? And that's not ideal. But I think that this team really does believe in his ability to shut down opposing number 1s when he's fully healthy. And I think that's the expectation for him heading into next season. We'll see if he ends up doing that. He's going to have some high expectations given his cap hit heading into next season, but he certainly has the physical profile to get that done. He's one of the more physically talented corners in all of football, has been for a long time ever since he came out of Ohio State, so I'm certainly optimistic about his future with this team. So make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already. If you are a Commanders Report real one, you watch all of our shows, you click that thumbs up icon, you've clicked that subscribe button. Really do appreciate all the real ones that stop by the show every single day to get their daily dose of Commanders news and rumors. Got one from Samuel Thomas here. He says, do you think we should try and draft Xavier Restrepo? I think he would be a perfect fit. If you need, the thing about Restrepo is that he's probably more of a true slot guy. So if you're looking for a true slot, I think Restrepo fits very nicely, and he's a very good player, man. Great route runner, gets open all the time, tough catcher over the middle of the field, safety blanket type guy over the middle. Is he going to be like superstar level good? I don't know about that. But, if you're just looking for a solid player that's going to be a really, really good addition to the receiver room year one and help you win a Super Bowl, Restrepo can certainly do that. So it'll be interesting to see in the draft and in free agency, where do they go get their slot receiver and where do they go get the other outside receiver? Because, if you get Cooper Kupp in a trade this year, that's going to be your slot guy this year, and you're probably drafting an outside guy. But if you get, say, an outside receiver like a T. Higgins in free agency or a DK Metcalf via trade this year, then you're probably more inclined to draft a guy like Xavier Restrepo to play the slot right away. So I would say round 2, round 3, if Restrepo's there, I think that's a great value. Round 1 might be a bit of a reach for me, but I think he's a good player, and I think he'd fit in nicely here in Washington. Going from N. Harville 1 says, you think the coaching staff is ready to give up on Luke McCaffrey? I think he was way underutilized at wide receiver. Luke did some good things last year. He did, especially as a kick return man. I think he's going to have some opportunities to do that next year as well. I will say Luke, how do I put this here? I didn't love his film coming out of Rice as much as some other people did. I know because he's the brother of Christian McCaffrey, and of course their dad was a longtime NFL player that, people love Luke because of the name. But also he does bring some good things to the table. I think he is a little bit elusive. I would probably classify him more as like a wide receiver 3 or 4 at this point in his career. Who knows what happens in year 2 of his development? Maybe he completely ascends up to that number 2 wide receiver status. I hope that's the case. He's a good kid. He works hard. Everybody raves about the way that he works inside that building, so I'm really rooting for him. But for a team that's trying to win Super Bowls right now, I don't know if you want to bank on an unproven player to make that kind of jump, right? Maybe they want to go get a little bit more of an established presence in the wide receiver room. But I certainly don't think they're going to completely give up on Luke McCaffrey. I think he's going to be a part of this team. I think he's going to be a part of the rotation of some degree. But I just don't know if I see the upside of like a true top end receiver in this league with Luke McCaffrey. But nonetheless, he's a good player. So let me know down there in the comments section, what is your confidence level in Luke McCaffrey heading into the 2025 season? Put it on a scale of 1 to 10 for me down there in the comments section. For what he is, I have a high level of confidence in Luke McCaffrey. In terms of his ability to be this team's number 2 receiver next year, I wouldn't put it as high. But in terms of the wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, kick return specialist, I think he could certainly do that. So it depends what context you're asking the question here. But I think for what he is, I have an 8 or 9 level confidence in what he can do. That'll be it for this week's mailbag here on the Commander's Report. Thank you to everybody that submitted questions. Lots of great questions here on the Commander's Report mailbag this week. So if you want to get your question on next week's Q&A segment, make sure you click that subscribe button and join us every Wednesday for our Commander's Report live shows held at 5:30 p.m. again every Wednesday. I'll see you guys next time. And until next time, guys, hail to the Commanders.